Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for standing by. Welcome to this ASM webinar, Preparing an Effective ASM Award Nomination. I'm Christine Hoover, ASM Awards Administrator with ASM International. As part of the ASM Executive Office, I process nominations, set up award selection committees, and administer the award selection meetings. I work closely with the Awards Policy Committee and the ASM Board of Trustees to obtain approval of nominees. I also coordinate the logistics for awardees attending the annual awards banquet where they receive their awards. The sponsor of today's webinar is the ASM Awards Policy Committee. We are proud to sponsor today's webinar. Before we begin, let me mention a few housekeeping issues. If you are having technical difficulties in joining the GoToWebinar session, dial 877-582-7011. All participants will be in a listen-only mode during the presentation. Feel free to submit written questions at any time by using the Q&A window located in the lower right corner of your screen. Click the question mark button to open the Q&A window. Type your question in the box at the bottom and click the send button. We will answer as many questions as we can at the end of the webinar. With that, I'd like to introduce the presenters of today's webinar, Professor Timothy Rupert and Dr. Elizabeth Hoffman. Professor Tim Rupert is an Associate Professor of Materials Science and Engineering at the University of California, Irvine, with a joint appointment in the Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. He received a BS/MS in Mechanical Engineering from Johns Hopkins University in 2007 and a PhD in Materials Science and Engineering from MIT in 2011. Professor Rupert's research focuses on uncovering new structure-property relationships in nanomaterials for structural and energy applications, as well as increasing the reliability and lifetime of these materials. Professor Rupert has received an NSF Career Award, a DOE Early Career Research Program Award, an ARO Young Investigator Program Award, a Hellman Fellowship, the ASM International Bradley Stoughton Award for Young Teachers, and the AIME Rossiter W. Raymond Memorial Award. He serves on the editorial boards of Materials Science and Engineering A, Metallurgical Materials Transactions A, and Scientific Reports. Dr. Elizabeth Hoffman is the Director of Innovation and University Engagement at the Savannah River National Laboratory, a U.S. Department of Energy multi-program national laboratory specializing in environmental remediation, nuclear materials processing, nuclear detection, and materials characterization. Dr. Hoffman is responsible for SRNL's Laboratory Directed Research and Development Program, Postdoctoral Researcher Program, and University Engagement Program. All three innovative programs advance the state of science through collaboration and partnership. Dr. Hoffman received her PhD and BS in Materials Science and Engineering in 2006 and 2002, respectively, from Drexel University's Department of Materials Science and Engineering. She has been active in ASM International since graduate school, serving in both the Savannah River and Philadelphia Liberty Bell chapters, as well as several national committees. Dr. Hoffman has been recognized as a Fellow of ASM International, as well as an ASM Silver Medal awardee. Dr. Hoffman currently serves as a trustee on the ASM board. In addition to ASM International, Dr. Hoffman is active in the American Ceramic Society. Our agenda today will cover the ASM Awards. We will cover nomination links and resources and awards by category, strategies for preparing a successful nomination, including getting started, how to prepare the nomination, how to write a letter of support, some frequently asked questions, nomination review process, approval, communications, nominations deadlines and submissions, and finally ending up with some question and answers. I'm excited to hear more from Tim and Liz today, and now I will turn it over to Tim for a brief overview of ASM Awards.
Thanks, Christine. So we can go to the next slide, please. All right, so what I'll do is I'll walk through just a few examples of some important topics on the different awards that are offered. This is by no means exhaustive, so please don't sort of take this as the only explanation. Just to start off, it's important to recognize that it's been about 100 years since ASM has been giving these awards. The Henry Marion Howell Medal is one of the oldest that was established in the 20s. And you can, if you go and you look at the history of all the award winners, you'll see all sort of names of greats in the material science and engineering history, including a lot of these people who are shown here. So one thing you'll notice is that there's a very certain demographic being represented here. And this is something that we've all been working to correct and improve as we move forward. So if we can go to our next slide, I want to emphasize that ASM International is very dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion in all aspects, but also in our awards. There's a commitment to these in our core policies, and we encourage nominations from qualified candidates regardless of their age, culture, ethnic origin, gender identity, and many other things. And one thing we want to encourage you is that often the key limitation is that people feel like they can't or shouldn't apply for these awards. So we want to encourage everyone to be ambitious, go after these awards, and really help us in diversifying what this looks like. Next slide, please. And you can actually start to see that although that those first pictures were of a very they were very homogeneous, our more recent collection of award winners is more diverse in terms of many of those critical aspects we talked about. And we hope that continues and even gets better as we continue to move on with this process. All right, we can go to the next slide. So in terms of our award program, the first thing to do is if you're interested, please go to this link. It has all of the information that we're going to be talking about today. You can loosely break these awards down into national ASM awards. There's about 20 of these. There's also what we call organizational unit awards. And these are things that are associated with ASM, but they're really presented by a sort of separate organization, something like the Canadian Council or the Emerging Professionals Group. At this link, you'll also find all of the details of the rules associated with that award, sample nomination forms, as well as lists of past recipients. One quick comment on that. Sometimes people look at these past recipients and say, well, this super famous person got this award and I don't think I can compete. Again, I encourage you to be ambitious and remember that that super famous person wasn't always super famous and they were a young career professional just like you. And put your name in and get that recognition and you can become the next super famous award winner for ASM International. And many of you probably know this, but the ASM International staff are fantastic. And Christine, who you heard from at the beginning, is a great contact and can help you with a lot of these questions that happen. Just as an action item, please sort of go in and make sure you check out the awards, consider potential candidates, and make sure that you get these nominations submitted by February 1st. Next slide, please. So in terms of the actual awards, there's many, and what we did is we tried to group them in terms of sort of topical type of areas. And the first one we come to is ASM Awards for Achievement in Material Science and Engineering. These are really technical type of achievements that focus on material science. There are a number of different names here. Sometimes the difference might be in whether or not it's acknowledging a single accomplishment or a career type of award, or even something like the J. Willard Gibbs is talking about a specific technical area, okay? This is a very broad category and it can go from anything from early career. So the Bronze Medal Award is for early career scientists. To some, for example, if you move up to the Silver Medal Award, it's a mid-career. Gold medal is sort of as you're further on into your fully established career. So the goal of this is to try to hit material science and engineering professionals at many different career stages and also in many different areas. You can go on to the next slide, please. There's also awards associated with teaching. The two most obvious ones are the Bradley Stoughton Award for Young Teachers and the Albert Easton White Distinguished Teacher Award. This is another example of where these awards are trying to cover multiple career stages. So for example, the Stoughton Award is for teachers who are no more than 35 years of age on January 1 of the year the award is given. And the Albert Easton White Award is for somebody who's devoted to teaching material science and engineering with a long and devoted service. And the way that there's a number put on that is they have to have at least 15 years of service at the time of nomination. So again, trying to hit different career stages. The member awards are the Fellow of ASM, the Alan Ray Putnam Service Award, and the William Hunt Eisenman Award. And these are for, again, trying to hit different things. The Fellow is for technical achievement and requires at least 5 years of continuous membership. The Putnam Award is for long and devoted service to a chapter and or the overall society of ASM International. And the William Hunt Eisenman Award is focused on industry. Next, please. There's also awards associated with individual publications. There's student publication awards. There's young author awards, which is a little more flexible. The Henry Marion Howe Award is for authors 40 and over. So again, it's trying to hit different career stages. And then there's even this Chuckett Lewis is IMS/ASM joint award in this area of metallography. So it's topically specific there. There's also awards that are associated with a specific lecture series. The Campbell Memorial Lecture is presented annually at the ASM's annual event, IMAT. And then the ASM TMS Distinguished Lecture in Materials and Society is a joint lecture and presented alternating years going between the IMAT and TMS annual meeting. We can go on to the next slide. You'll also find some awards that are a little bit less obvious in what they mean. A good example is the Historical Landmark Award. This is really focused on sites and events that have some significant historical importance in the field of material science and engineering. One thing to point out, and by the way, long form descriptions also exist on that link we showed you, is that the emphasis here is really on technological development rather than on an individual. So the site where a very famous processing route was developed is more sort of in line with this award than the site where a famous metallurgist was born. There's also an age requirement. So these recommended sites or structures should be at least 50 years old. And oftentimes these nominations are are connected to the local chapters. And in fact, the chapters are responsible for the dedication ceremony that's associated with this. Next slide, please. Finally, I mentioned there's this separate segment of organizational unit awards. An example is the ASM Canada Council John Covey Innovation Award. And these are, and there's other awards shown here, and these are actually selected and approved by those various councils. And the awards policy committee, which both myself and Liz are part of, and the board of trustees are sort of help in an advisory capacity, but these are really led by those councils at that different level. Next slide, please. There's also awards that are associated with different affiliate societies, things like heat treatment, electronic device failure, metallography, and thermal spray societies. And you can find information on those as well. These cover many of the same things we talked about already. So things like technical achievements, emerging leaders, excellence in metallography, best paper type of awards, and then career achievement type of things as well. Next slide, please. All right, so it's my pleasure to turn it over to Liz. I'll be around and here to answer questions as well towards the end of it. Liz, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Yeah, so I will go into a little bit detail of strategies for preparing a good nomination package. So why is preparing a good nomination package so important? You want to make sure that your candidate's qualifications are really highlighted. You want to represent your candidate, and you want to help the award committee see the positive things that the package is going to be communicating, recognizing that these award committees are going to be seeing many different nominations, and so you really want to make your package shine. So, and and just keep in mind that the nominations are confidential, and that the nomination material therefore is confidential. And also, no self-nominations are accepted. So we can go to the next slide. A couple of specifics on preparing a successful nomination package. Consider members, peers, and coworkers that should be recognized, and consider nominating them. Oftentimes, some people will not come out and say, hey, can you nominate me? So think about the people that you work with and engage with in the materials community, and reach out and offer to nominate someone you feel is worthy of an award. Nominators must be an ASM member in good standing, and that means that their membership dues are current. And most of the award nominees need to be ASM members. Not all of them, but most of them do, and that is when membership is required. So take a look at the rules for the specific award that you are looking to prepare a nomination package for, and contact ASM to determine membership status if membership is a requirement, just to confirm that from the very beginning. Print a sample nomination form and review all the information that is requested. So this is a good thing to do early on, just to make sure that you understand what you'll need to pull together as a part of the package. And then consider who would champion the nomination. So this is really important. Someone needs to take a lead, take ownership of a nomination. You know, if the chapter or a committee or an affiliate society would like to put someone forward, you still need to have a champion, a single individual that will make sure that all the lines are completed and the package is submitted on time. Only the official online nomination form will be accepted, and the final nomination must be submitted by the nominator. So next slide. So how to start? Before you begin, you want to ask a couple questions. Is there an age requirement? Is there a membership requirement? Is there a field of experience requirement? Does the candidate's accomplishments meet the award criteria? And what supporting documents will I need to gather for this award? Next slide. So when you start compiling the nomination package, you can follow these steps. You can ask the candidate for suggested references, and when choosing references, ask well-known experts, industry experts, and highly regarded people who are familiar with the nominee's accomplishments to provide letters of endorsement. So you want those letters to be personal. You don't want it just to be a form letter. People who are on the committees can start to recognize that if the letter isn't truly personal and specific for that individual. And then also start early. So sometimes it can take some time to find the correct people to write the letters of recommendation or references. And then and oftentimes these people are very busy themselves, and so you don't want to ask them for a short turnaround to get a quality reference. And then after you've gathered your materials, it's also important to thoroughly review your nomination. So double check the award requirements, visit the individual award page, make sure that you've gathered everything that you need for the documentation, check spelling and grammar to make sure that the overall package has been proofread and reads well. Get feedback from the candidates, let the candidate review the final nomination, and this could lead to a few improvements with examples and additional supporting details. And get a second review or ask another person to review the nomination package for both content and quality before submitting. So someone that's just completely fresh material and see how it is received. Okay, the next slide. So when you start compiling your nomination, you can follow the rest of these steps. Plan your argument. So there will be other people applying for the award, so you want to outline your potential candidates' qualifications and compare them to the award criteria. Make sure that this individual's package will be addressing those. Also, compose your supporting letter. Use the points that you've already collected. Compose 1 or 2 page, not very long, letter outlining your candidate's qualifications and how they apply to the specific award criteria in a very logical and concise statement. So this letter should include the significant information regarding the professional and industrial achievements of the nominee and how they relate to the award, and an explanation on the candidate's work and how it's influenced industry. So give details regarding the originality of the candidate's work. And be aware that supporting letters should be no more than 1 or 2 pages. So relevant professional history, education, job experience, company affiliations, licenses, patents, organization memberships are requested within the nomination form, but can be referenced as needed in the letter of support if that will help the argument. And then fill out the nomination form completely. Make sure that you filled out every field in a legible and clear manner. Anything written or submitted for a nominee must be written in 3rd person, not 1st person, and no self-nominations will be accepted. So next slide. So how do you choose a good nomination package? Initiate the nomination, or how do you compose a good nomination package? Initiate the nomination process early. Again, compiling it in a thorough nomination package does take quite a lot of time. So begin early and be sure that you check the deadline to make sure you know what you're working towards. Check the individual award website to ensure that the candidate fits the criteria and that you've provided all the required documents to certify that this individual meets the criteria. Provides sufficient information. So the entire nomination package should consist of sufficient detail to enable the committee who's reviewing it to assess the candidate's qualifications for the award. So this does need to be thorough, but a concise nomination package. So you don't want to go on for too long because, again, there are other nominations to review, and you want to capture the committee's attention. So keep it concise. Note that the nominator's supporting statement should be no more than 2 pages. The letter of endorsement should be no more than 1 or 2 pages each, and the resume or CV, curriculum vitae, should be no more than 5 pages. So except in the case of a best paper award where a copy of the nominated paper should accompany the nomination package, any additional materials or pages received will not be forwarded to the award committee. And be sure to submit up to the requested number of support letters. So submit your best support letters that you receive within the number of letters requested, no more than that. Okay, next slide. So in writing a good letter of support, how do you do that? Explain your relationship to the candidate. So letters should include a brief introduction and discussion on the relationship between the writer and the candidate. ASM membership is not required for letters of support. Keep the award criteria in mind. So the letter writer should address specific examples of the candidate's work and how that meets the award criteria. Use concrete evidence. Statements such as, because he or she is an excellent engineer, must be followed by why, something more concrete. be original. The letters copied from other sources may not do justice to the nomination. Do not encourage multiple identical endorsements from colleagues. And similarly, ensure that each letter of endorsement is composed independently and addresses unique aspects of the candidate's work. So avoid essentially reciprocating endorsements. And be concise. Again, each letter should be no longer than one or two pages, and support letters provided or provide the opportunity to share additional information with the selection committee members that may not be shining through in the nominations or the nominee's bio, resume, or CV. Next slide. So if you frequently asked questions, how do I submit a support letter? I think we go back there. There you go.
Sorry about that.
So letters can be sent directly to the nominator to be uploaded for the final nomination. Another question is signature required in the nomination form. Electronic signature is required by filling the nominator section and providing your contact information. And who do we address the letters of support to? All letters of support should be addressed to the awards chair. Okay, next slide. And with that, Christine.
Okay, thank you, Liz and Tim. That was great. I hope everybody got some good information out of that. Next, I'm just going to touch base real quickly on the award process review. Each award has their own confidential selection committee, and members of these selection committees are recommended and appointed by the awards policy committee. Nominations are received and reviewed for completeness against the rules to make sure all requirements are met by the appointed deadlines. And the selection committee reviews the nominations received. We also provide the committee with the award rules, board policies, relativity of awards guidelines for the committee, and also past recipient list. The selection committee chair recommends an evaluation method for nomination and confers with the committee and gets the agreement from their committee. And a teleconference will be held to discuss the nominations once everybody has reviewed and ranked them, and then they will recommend a candidate. Once a candidate is recommended, the selection committee then will submit the recommendation for the award recipient to the awards policy committee for their approval after they fully evaluate the candidate and measuring against all the award rules by providing a board report. And upon approval of the awards policy committee, the board report is then submitted to the board of trustees for their approval. Upon their approval, congratulation letters are then sent out to the award winner and to the nominator as well. And nominators of unsuccessful candidates are sent a letter notifying the nominator that number one, selections were made and unfortunately their candidate was not selected. And number two, we will provide remaining eligibility of the candidate, which is how many more years the nomination remains eligible. And three, finally, we'll provide the nominators with any given feedback from the committees and noting the opportunity to update the nomination prior to the next deadline. The majority of our awards all have a deadline of February 1st, and they're all listed there. You can see we do have a few that are later on. March 1st is the Bradley Stoughton Award for Young Teachers. Deadline is March 1st. March 15th is for the Emma Award, Engineering Materials Achievement Award. April 1st is the International Student Paper Contest. And then September 1st is the ASM and TMS Distinguished Lecturer in Materials and Society. You can find sample nomination forms, rules, past recipient list, and you can request your nomination link through our website. You can also contact me at any time via email or give me a phone call. I'll be happy to help you. Okay, at this point, I think we're going to see if we have any questions. Before we conclude, Jen, did we get any questions from our participants that we could answer?
Yes, we do have a couple so far, so hopefully some more come in. The first one is, can you elaborate on technical significance of achievements and what exactly that means?
Okay, I probably would like to refer that question to either Liz or Tim.
So I would sort of warn, we don't want to overprescribe, but it can be whatever qualifies for achievement in whatever area that is. So I'm a university professor and we think mainly in terms of publications and big things like that. So if we had made a big discovery that had a new type of nanocrystalline material that had great properties, I could pitch that as something that has significance. But I can also imagine that if you're at a company and you develop the new materials processing route that has an interesting patent and you want to pitch that as a technical achievement, that's totally reasonable. So it can be really anything in whatever way you can describe it as being an achievement. So it's open-ended, not to confuse you, but it's open-ended to be open to different types of achievement.
Yes, I'll agree with all of that, and just maybe add that what I think you're trying to get there is the value of the science or the technology that the individual may be working on. So hitting on that a little bit as well.
Okay, thank you guys. Another question we have is, how many years of membership do you need to become a fellow?
I can answer that. Yes, 5 years of continuous membership, and you can't have a break. So if you are a 20-year member and you forget to renew your membership for a year, and then the next year you want to be nominated for fellow, you'd have to wait the 5 years. So that is very, we stick to that exactly. So it's very, very important to remember to keep your membership up to date in case that situation arises, but it is 5 years of continuous membership.
Okay, it looks like we have another question as well. Do the support letters cover areas not covered in CV's application, or or add perspectives reinforce the items in the CV, or is it a mix of both? I hope that makes sense.
It does. I can answer that. Especially, I can answer that for the fellows nominations. The letters, and this would go for all the awards, the letters are extremely important to include information that they may not have in the actual nomination. It gives them the chance of giving further information that's not covered in the nomination, so that when they're reading these, they get information, more information that they're able to put in. And this, especially for the fellows letters, works out good, because I've seen a lot of times where a nominee will be, really selected based on those letters. So it's a good practice to get really good letters with lots of information that would not be contained in the nomination, if that makes sense.
Just to chime in, I totally agree. The one way to think about it is that every nomination has X number of pages associated with it. And if those pages are saying the same thing over and over and over again, that's not as valuable as if they're hitting on different points. Now, maybe your letters accentuate and add context to something that shows up on the CV. That's adding new value, though. But really, it shouldn't be just repeating. We want to have new content, or at least that's the most valuable type of letter that we see.
Good point.
Okay, thank you guys. We have a couple more. How are ASM Awards differentiated from TMS Awards, since both societies recognize achievements in metals research?
Liz
or Tim, would you like to tackle that one?
Well, I mean, the easy answer is they're different societies, right? So they're totally different processes. I guess it's possible that something would overlap and be recognized by both societies at different times. But that goes the same way to say that some people are members of both societies. But that's not a universal truth, right? There's plenty of people that are members of one society over the other.
Okay, very good. Let's see. somebody, and I'm just going to answer this one, maybe myself, Christine, you can jump in if you want. They just wanted to know if there would be a copy of the presentation available since the information was so good. We will not have a copy of the presentation, but it will be available via recording that you can watch as many times as you would like. An email will go out and Christine will elaborate on that at the end of the presentation. Let's see, how many years of continued membership in ASM on the chapter level will get you ASM Life member from the chapter?
That I wouldn't know. I'm not real familiar with chapter awards. Liz, I know you're very involved with chapters. Is that something you'd be able to answer?
I don't know the answer off the top of my head for that one.
We'll
have to get back with them on that.
Yes.
Okay, that's no problem. We have all of the attendees' email addresses, so we'll follow up directly with you, Roger, on that question. Let's see, do letters of recommendation from FASMs carry more weight with the committee versus non-FASMs?
So it's a hard question. Oh, go ahead, Christine.
No, you can go ahead, Tim, but I was just going to say that, it does carry some weight, but also the content of the letter is what's most important, but it does carry some weight if it's from a FASM. It necessarily doesn't have to be, and letters of support don't even necessarily have to be from an ASM member.
I was just going to add that, as with many things, the answer is complicated. If somebody writes you a great letter, that's the best thing. That really gives value and depth and explains why you're the right person for this award. If they also happen to be a fellow of ASM and they show why that relates to their ASM experience, that's great. If they also happen to be, but you could keep going, right? If they also happen to be a National Academy of Engineering member, if they also happen to be a Nobel Prize winner, those things are all positives. But I think the more important and the core part is that they write a good letter that adds depth. We would rather have good letters with depth than from people that aren't fellows than empty letters from fellows.
Good point.
Okay, thank you, Tim. What is considered, and this is kind of a play off of the very first question, but slightly different. What is considered as evidence for technical achievements? Journal papers, patents, process improvements, any others? How about developing research or experimental methodologies?
My opinion is that all of those are good examples and could be used as evidence that it's a technical achievement. Again, it's meant to be, I would also argue that you wouldn't want to just stop there. So you wouldn't want to say, hey, this person wrote a paper and that's technical achievement. We would want to explain why that truly builds on other papers that existed, on what the state of the art is in that field and how it pushes that field forward. But all of those things are good examples of technical achievements.
Okay, would anyone like to add anything else to Tim's response?
No, I agree, and I'll just mention, like, there's a wide diversity of skills and experience in the membership, and so we don't want to, create a box that is overly constrictive that people would need to fill. So
yeah, I agree. Okay, another question. Actually, we're getting a lot of really good questions. Should we aim for a mix of providers of support letters, early senior career, industry, academics, government, individuals?
I think that's a good idea to have a mix. Again, referring to the fellows, a lot of times it's looked upon negatively if you have all of your letters from like your employer. So if you could have a wide range, a mixture of letters, personally, I think that is a good thing. But the quality is what's really important. Again, what Tim had said, the quality is very important.
Yeah, I would just add, I think it's good to have variety, but again, you don't want it to be at the expense of somebody that knows you. So if your contribution is primarily in industry, it'd be great. It'd be awesome if you could also get somebody from a national lab that recognizes how that's good. But if you can't, and instead you have a bunch of strong letters from other people in industry, that would be better than sort of forcing the issue.
Okay, Jen, do we have any other questions? Okay. Well, it looks like we don't have any further questions. And I just wanted to thank everybody. And in a few days, all participants will receive an email with further contact information and a link to a recording of the webinar. And to learn more about ASM Awards, please feel free to contact me at christine.hoover@asminternational.org. And please don't forget to complete the brief survey before exiting this webinar. Thank you again for participating in this ASM webinar, and we hope everybody has a great day. Thank you.